It's finally happened. Bungie has nerfed Stompies once again. But in return, they've also nerfed the Immortal SMG, thus making way for our weapon of choice in today's video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm BraveX and today I've got one of the most toxic builds out there. Not only is it toxic, but it's also S tier. And with the Stompies being nerfed, this is a build you need to keep your eye on for Season 21. To give you a prime example of how powerful this build is, here's a clip from my friend Didi. For something positive, there always has to be a negative. And with this build being so powerful and toxic, in return, this happens. What I really like about this build is that it's so interchangeable. When it comes to the super, you have a choice between Blade Barrage, Golden Gun Deadshot, and Golden Gun Marksman. I myself went with the Blade Barrage super since it does have a base cooldown of 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Getting into the dodge ability, the only one I can recommend is Gambler's Dodge, because when we dodge near enemies, this is going to fully charge our melee ability. When it comes to choosing a Hunter jump, to each their own. Personally, I went with the Strafe jump because that's engraved in my Hunter brain. Next over, we have 4 choices when it comes to melee abilities. For this entire build, you have a choice between Lightweight Knife or the Weighted Throwing Knife. And later in this video, I'll explain which is better and why. When I said that this build was interchangeable, it is. You have choices between your melee ability and your grenade ability. For this build, I personally went with the Healing Grenade. This allowed me to take on multiple gunfights back to back. But I'd be lying if I said that was the only grenade I used. I also utilized the Solar Grenade and also the Trip My Grenades. This is why I said this build is interchangeable. Depending on the situation and the game mode you're playing, this will ultimately determine which grenade you choose. When I started playing game modes like Survival, Healing Grenades not only helped myself, but my teammates. But in game modes like Trials of Osiris, in maps like Endless Vale and Javelin 4, I went with Solar Grenades and Trip My Grenades because those were the grenades that gave me the most bang for my buck. Now this entire build will be revolving around your primary weapon, which is why we're utilizing the aspect on your mark. Precision Final Blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration. This entire build revolves around running and gunning, and with the aspect on your mark, this is going to give us increased reload speed and handling, thus only further helping our build. Next over, we have the main driver of this entire build, the solar aspect Knock 'em Down. While Radiant, Final Blows with your throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. If you're wondering how important this aspect is for this entire build, think of this aspect as the cogwheel that makes this entire build function properly. Without this aspect, this build wouldn't be working at all. When it comes to fragments, there's only 2 fragments that are important. Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. Next over, we have Ember of Benevolence. Applying Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration for a short duration. Now you might be wondering, what other fragments should I be utilizing? Well, depending on the grenade you use. If you're utilizing a Healing Grenade, then Ember of Benevolence and Ember of Torches are the only fragments that are gonna make sense. But if you're like me and you like to utilize the Solar Grenade or the Trip My Grenade, you might want to utilize Ember of Char, Ember of Singeing, and Ember of Searing, all of which only add more synergy to this entire build. For today's build, we're utilizing 2 exotics. And yes, both of these exotics are flying under the radar. This is why I think they're going to be demons in Season 21. For my console players and controller players, rejoice. Both of these are going to provide a huge benefit to controller players. Our exotic of choice is none other than the Mechanier's Trick Sleeves. These come with the exotic perk Spring Loaded Mounting. Increases sidearm ready and reload speed. While critically wounded, swapping to a sidearm increases its damage. Provides a large benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of sidearms. Now I know what you're thinking.
The Mechanier's Trick Sleeves? Why?
Trust me, there's a reason for this, and it's gonna make sense in the gameplay loop. Our main weapon of choice is the exotic sidearm, the CRYOSTHESIA. And yes, it comes with the exotic perk LN2 Burst. By pressing the reload button, this will swap the firing mode after a final blow to enable a charged shot. It also comes with the trait Liquid Cooling. Direct hits with a charged shot instantly freezes the target. Indirect hits freeze combatants and slow opposing guardians. Now there's 2 ways of running this build. You can have the sophisticated way and utilize it with a sniper, or you can be extremely toxic and utilize the explosive personality Wave Frame Grenade Launcher. Now I'll explain in the gameplay loop on which is better. For now, let's talk about the throwing knives. When you get a kill with the CRYOSTHESIA and you activate the LN2 burst, you can freeze an opponent. Now, when it comes to your throwing knife, you have two choices: the lightweight knife and the weighted throwing knife, both of which can get the job done. But with the weighted knife, it's kind of redundant. You don't need to freeze the target. You can immediately get a one-hit kill with this weapon. But let's not forget that when utilizing the weighted throwing knife, it does take a little bit of time for the knife to come out, which can have some negative drawbacks. If you freeze a target and you throw your weighted throwing knife, there's a possibility that your target will unfreeze. This is where we swap over to the lightweight knife. It is a quick throwing knife. It doesn't take much time to get this knife out, and when your target is frozen, you can instantly one-hit kill them. Now let's talk about the gameplay loop. If you do plan on using the toxic version of this build, then you want to utilize it with the explosive personality, in which when you see a target, you want to fire the explosive personality waveframe grenade launcher. This is going to deal a pretty significant amount of damage. This is where the Mechaneer's trick sleeves come into play. This is going to allow us to instantly draw out the CRYOSTHESIA for that easy cleanup kill, thus allowing us to secure a LN2 burst, aka the freeze shot. The next target you see, you want to utilize the LN2 burst. This is going to freeze that enemy. At this moment, you want to utilize the lightweight knife and get an easy one-hit kill on that enemy. This is going to reactivate the perk Knock 'em Down, thus giving us a fully charged melee ability. At this moment, we start the gameplay loop all over again, looking for another target to damage with our explosive personality, getting an easy cleanup kill with the CRYOSTHESIA, activating the LN2 burst, getting a free shot off, freezing the target, then getting the elimination with the lightweight knife, thus activating Knock 'em Down, giving us a fully charged melee ability. Keep in mind that when you do freeze a target and you eliminate that target, this is going to cause shatter damage, meaning any nearby enemies will also take damage. Thus, if you do have your CRYOSTHESIA still out, you can easily secure another kill. And if the enemies are on top of each other, going back to the clip we saw earlier of my friend Didi, you'll see how he secured 3 kills with 1 sniper shot. As you can tell, that right there is shatter damage. By defeating the frozen target, this caused shatter damage to the enemy targets nearby. Now, the sophisticated way of utilizing this build is you use a high impact sniper. By landing a body shot, this is going to allow you to get an easy cleanup kill with the CRYOSTHESIA, thus giving you the LN2 burst. Yes, we don't always aim for body shots, but when you're utilizing a high impact sniper and you do land a body shot, this is going to deal significant damage, thus allowing us to clean up with the CRYOSTHESIA. Lastly, if you find yourself without a melee charge, that's fine. This is why we're utilizing Gambler's Dodge. Dodging near an enemy will give you a full melee charge. Now, before we get into the mods I utilized, there's a few things to keep in mind. If you freeze an enemy with the CRYOSTHESIA LN2 burst shot, you cannot secure a one-hit kill with the explosive personality. It is not a finisher weapon, it's a priming weapon. But on the other hand, you can always get a one-hit kill with a sniper. Now, when it comes to mod customization, it's fairly simple. On the helmet, I went with 1 stasis siphon mod and 1 stasis targeting. On the Mechaneer's trick sleeves, I went with a stasis loader mod for that faster reload on that CRYOSTHESIA. I also went with the heavy-handed mod. Your powered melee final blows create an orb of power. Yes, when we freeze that enemy and we secure that final blow with that throwing knife, this is going to generate an orb of power. Moving into our leg armor, I decided to utilize 1 recuperation mod, 1 better already mod, and 1 invigoration mod, all of which are activated when you pick up an orb of power. Lastly, on our class item, I utilized 2 bomber mods, and most importantly, I utilized 1 reaper mod. After using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. And there you have it, a build that's gonna thrive in Season 21. Stompies are getting nerfed, the Immortal is getting dialed back. There's no better time than Season 21 to utilize this build. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and click that like button. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. On that note, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor and click that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. You have a good one, and I will see you in the next video.